know he's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean? Gotta get away, holy diver. Yeah. Got shiny diamonds like the eyes of a cat in the black and blue. Something is coming for you.
Evenings, freedom's valiant soldiers of the Super Earth Armed Forces. That was Holy Diver by Running James Dio, because you just know that there was absolutely no way that I could pass up a song with that kind of title, right? Come to think of it, there are several divisions within the Liberation Fleet that fit that description. Genesis, Vertex, maybe Nadir to an extent? Question mark? No, that is not me trying to pad my word count again like the other night. That was me making clear that I am expressing tentative bewilderment and curiosity rather than making a declarative statement. The Vertex can be a little sensitive about their holiness, and I do not know much about their relationship with the Nadir beyond the fact that full automatic firepower is exchanged with some degree of regularity between them. But enough of that grammar lesson. Let's take a look at news from the galactic sphere. For some strange reason, Gatria is struggling a little, and liberation totals are significantly lower than they should be. Considering that we've got 75% of the Liberation Fleet rocking out with their shocks out, that being arc throwers and Tesla towers, and the DSS is in orbit offering logistical support, the terminus here should have evaporated like a fart in a blast wave, but they aren't. Ersats must be infested all the way down to the bedrock if our boys in the black and gold are struggling this hard. Bugs are probably stacked in there like Kleenex. Or Pringles. Like, holy fluff, where is the bottom of those cans, dude? I have been snacking on these things for 20 minutes. Well, just keep blasting those bugs down, guys. There's gotta be an end to these mucky fluffers in there somewhere, right? Once again, it's a bit of a slow news day, but I do want to make a special shout-out to Thief Soldier, who drew this for me. There I was enjoying my morning stim when the leader of the Freedom Alliance, Tyler Brash, pings me and shows me this masterpiece. I mean, this is just so flattering and awesome, and you nailed my look perfectly, Thief Soldier. Thank you so much for this. You really are the best. I mean, STS Defender of Freedom and Phantom of the Galactic War might have a higher sub count, but do they get fan art? No, sir. I am the voice of the Liberation Fleet, and my fans and supporters are the wind beneath my wings. Once again, Thief Soldier, thank you for this. You really made me smile today. Aside from that, there is virtually no other movement or news in the galactic sphere, save for some steady backsliding on Curia and Alairt 3, and still no word on the location of the Genesis divers. As of right now, the situation might be looking a bit grim. But all we can really do is keep trimming the TQZ back, and hopefully someone at the Refuge can think of something. Speaking of the Refuge, the mood in my little pocket of space can be described with the words, hopeful unease. My people are happy about the gains made in the TQZ, but they are concerned about how long Gatria is taking. This feels like a distraction. Not to mention the strange energy fluctuations we're reading over the Valdis sector. Whatever's going on over there, the mainframe is sure making a hell of a lot of noise. The primary point of concern is on the Illuminate Death Frontier, though. Alairt 30 will be the 9th world so far that has fallen silent to our great enemy. Fortunately, new ideas are coming out of the Department of Celestial Mysteries every day in regards to countermeasures, and experiments conducted in high-security laboratories have revealed that the Illuminate Prion seems to unravel and break down when subjected to high-voltage currents. Larger entities like flesh mobs take twice the normal amount of damage from arc weapons, and tripods are completely locked up by them. Sun Helldivers are taken to carrying the de-escalator into the Death Frontier, and as the famed YouTuber, Just a Tip, once said, blows the core right out of a harvester, no warning, no mercy. And that's how it ought to be. Against the crawling dark of the Illuminate's evil, we light up the sky with freedom, thunder, clap, and flash, and nothing but ash remains. Since there is relatively little other news, I can subject you all to a little bit more of the lore of my world, namely power distribution and our rather unique way of self-defense against invasion. This is actually a concept devised by Nikola Tesla several hundred years ago who, make no mistake, dear listeners, he was a genius well ahead of his time. Some of his works make Thomas Edison's best day look like a GoFundMe. But Tesla's backers pulled his funding when they realized that he wasn't just aiming for wireless communication, but free energy transmission. And it worked. Poor guy just had no luck, and Edison bodied him and then buried him. Tragic, really. The principle in question is called resonant inductive coupling, where two coils, a transmitter and a receiver, would be tuned to the same frequency, allowing energy to transfer between them over distance. Similar to our radio, which I might know a thing or two about. We have scaled this concept up to use the moon orbiting the Refuge, Curia, as a transmission coil, sending the energy generated by its many deuterium reactors into the ionosphere of the planet, where it can be further directed by the same climate stabilizers that govern our weather manipulation technology. These streams of electromagnetic power are referred to as ether lace, and form currents in the upper atmosphere called such because, well, I'll get into that in just a moment. Now, this is where it really gets crazy. In his life, Nikola Tesla crafted the Tower of Wardenclyffe to use as a wireless energy transmitter for his experiments. So by following the same logic, all we need is a tower of sufficient height with the proper resonant frequency to tap into the ether lace. Well, 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 look at that. Seems we've got a whole bunch of towers right here already. Yes, dear listeners, every single building on the Refuge can act as a resonant receiver for the power of the ether lace, which is why it's called that. If you look at it on the electromagnetic spectrum, the generated energy has spread all over the planet in currents that branch and divert as needed, like lace fabric. It also makes buildings in question hum very, very softly in a deep frequency, almost inaudible to the human ear. You can barely feel the vibrations under your fingertips. It's almost to the level of a radio frequency. Most people can't hear it, but I can. And at night, during low power usage phases, the city sings. And get this, my people are calling that effect Angel Song. Now, I'm sure, despite my people bombing me with compliments until I get a complex, I'm sure you've noticed that the Refuge has no SAM or STS batteries. We started building those, but quickly lost interest in favor of something way better that we discovered purely by accident. Every structure here can act as both resonant receiver and transmitter, slowly releasing the capacitor energy gathered during the day to ease the strain on the grid at night, hence why the buildings sing. Every structure can also scream and act as an energy deterrent weapon. We've already covered that the large-scale transmission arrays can act as STS weapons, but what happens if a whole town turns its gathered power on enemy air contacts? Bug zapper, that's what. The only way to make us stop is to cut the power, and that is pretty darn difficult to do because of the nature of the ionosphere. It makes the ether lace semi-self-sustaining. An eliminate invader would have to wait until the planet's atmosphere ran dry of circulated power before our cities themselves would stop trying to shoot him down. Now, say the Illuminate landed on the streets to avoid the lightning bolts apartment buildings are hurling at him. Nope, that still doesn't work because remember how the streets have dynamic charging infrastructure? Just walking on a road where he isn't welcome is going to fry Squidward back into sashimi, and as we covered, his biology doesn't stand up to a high voltage. We have essentially rigged up a system where we are, dare I say, tempting fate, completely unassailable by a brute force attack, and not only could we repel virtually any invasion, we would probably handle it better than Super Earth ever did with a fraction of the effort. We look outside, see squids, and it's just a matter of waiting until the autonomous city defense AI gets done lighting them up like a festival of wrecking tree. Then some biohazard containment androids show up, clean up the mess, and everyone gets on with their day. And that's to say nothing of our vast stores of combat androids, fist units, volunteer helldivers, sentry arrays, and the redundant defensive layout of the Refuge itself. Beyond On every blade of grass would be a rifle barrel, a landmine, a sentry gun, a helldiver, a mech, or a grocery store firing lightning bolts at an attacker. Illimited liked to use children in the creation of their flesh mobs, and many daycares were raided during the fight for Super Earth. They try that here, the daycare fights back. No more easy victims. Not again. Now, if this was a conventional enemy, I would show him these defensive plans and try to drive home the point that no matter what army he sends here, they're going home in a pine box to a man. It would be wise to super pace. But the Illuminate are not conventional, and they will not listen to reason. I've already killed 2 of their leaders, and I'm bucking for a 3rd, so step right up. Fingers on buzzers. Who's feeling lucky? Who wants to get violently murdered because they wouldn't leave Pandera alone today? But all of this assumes that we would even let them get within the system's borders anyway. If we detect enemy vessels violating our system space, we can just fire up the wormhole generator and send them somewhere else. I hear the Lestrade sector has especially lovely weather this time of year. So, all of this is leading up to a decision that I have made after ample talks with the Councilium Caelestis. At the end of July, once I am certain that our defenses are airtight and we have worked out all the kinks and problems in our processes and procedures, I'm going to pull the curtain back on where the Angels' Refuge is and teach everyone how to access it. It's more complicated than you think and kind of dangerous, so until I tell you how, please don't try. You will hurt yourself. We will also be a bit more open to trade deals, and we've got a lot of fancy pants technology. This is the kind of thing that happens when you routinely raid freedom camps and liberate scientists whose only crime was getting busted for having a bit too open of a mind when the democracy officer was breezing through the office sipping on his morning thermos of orphan tears. Look, if I can buy off the best and brightest minds that you all just throw away by giving them a drink of water, a ham sandwich, a nice place to live, and a kind word, you never were that great to begin with. Super Earth has become a place where loyalty is prized over competence. And it's going to end the exact same way as every other fascist regime in history did. Mark my words. But maybe, if we're very, very lucky, we can live long enough to see something better replace it. And that's been Liberty's latest with me, Pandera the Radio Angel. Hopefully, by tomorrow, we'll have this unpleasant business with the Terminids all cleared up, and we can move on to something that feels less like pest control and more towards winning an actual war. Because of some morning obligations that I have tomorrow, there will be no morning broadcast, so I will see you all later on that evening, Helldivers. For liberty, for freedom, for democracy, and for the preservation of Angels' Refuge.